What is up, players? It's Warboss Tay up in this mug. Welcome to my unboxing of Ivya Volga, the Outcast. It's for the Soulblight Gravelords faction for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. And the character's from the same clan as Belladonna Volga, who you might remember is that old lady wearing, with the wolf legs, riding a wolf with two wolf buddies. Just basically saying, you know, a vampire that is also mixed with a werewolf without coming right out and saying it. So again, we've got the same motif, some wolf legs, but then her thing is bats, lots of bats. So there's no options for conversion or doing anything different than what the model looks like. I thought it just looks like a cool model. I think it might be fun to paint up. As much as I dislike painting bats flowing out of models, I think this one makes sense. It doesn't have the crazy red hair and they look more clumped up like a swarm. And then the ones that are kind of out by themselves look almost like they're floating, not really attached. There's depth to the bats. It's not just like a flat line of bats. So we'll see, but I'm kind of optimistic about how this is gonna go. So what do you get in the box? You open it up and you get this that the plastic sprue is sitting in. And you pop the sprue out, you get a wet palette, a nice little swimming pool for your wet palette. Basically, take some water, pour it into the bottom, cut out a little rectangle there of parchment paper, put it down so that the water gets absorbed, dump out any excess water, and there you go. Wet palette, perfect for keeping your paints usable for hours on end. You can put some paint on that wet palette, leave for the night, and come back in the morning or even the next day in the afternoon, and it'll be still usable. It's terrific. Highly advocate using a wet palette. And as for the sprue itself, you get a little half a sprue here. Let's take a look at the detail. Not like I said, there's no alternate pieces. What you see on this frame is all going to go on the model. Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic about all these bats. Like the bestial legs. She knows how to use them. Then she's gonna be standing on that tree branch. Okay, let's take a look at how it builds. I like these instructions. They really show where do you put the glue, and then the pieces that you stick on. The blue part is like a separate piece, so you can see the general flow of how everything gets put together when it happens in the process, where the glue points are, and that's what you want as a modeler. You don't want there to be any question in your mind, how do you put this model together? And that's simple. Then you've got her rules here in the back. All right, let's cut these pieces out, and then I'm going to do a little speed up and get to working on putting this together. So moving into the assembly phase, we're cutting out the bats. The trick for this is you want to find a good sharp pair of pliers that you can really put the flat end up against the bats. I think there were a couple of times right here as I'm cutting out these first 2 or 3 pieces where there are bat wings precariously holding on to the sprue, and you really have to make sure you go at the right angle and you don't apply too much pressure, or else those wings will snap off pretty easily. And now I'm going in and I'm shaving the wings. I'm trying to shave as much of the flash down as I can. There was a point when I did find just this giant hunk of plastic from the frame, and I had to go in there with my pliers one more time. I thought that's kind of strange that usually you don't have this big of a chunk of plastic from the frame. So I'm just shaving it down, working my way through it, and getting onto the next piece here, which is the head and the front of the body. Again, shave down all of this. It's a tedious extra step to put down your plier and pick up the hobby knife and then go over the piece that you clipped out of the sprue, and just to cut away or shave away that plastic. But it's worth it, believe me. If you have to glue 2 pieces together and one of them has a hunk of flash on it, there's just no way to smash it together to the other piece. So here I'm finding the angle for the head and gluing the back of it here. Now, this is a tricky part because it looks like it goes flush to itself, but it actually goes on at an angle. And I do figure it out after a little while, like playing with both sides. Another way to really see what you're doing wrong is to turn the model as you're trying to apply it. So I realized that, okay, it's not going on the way I wanted it to, so just giving it a little bit of an angle allowed the pieces to slot right into each other. And that's kind of been Games Workshop's sculpting mission since, I think, the Dark Imperium box set. Moving on, we're just clipping bats. Clipping bats from the sprue, making sure that we don't mess up any of their wings. Once you get those bats cleared, then you go for the larger surfaces like the cloaks and the capes and the dresses. I'm just going to shave that down a little bit. Okay, now we're getting the back of the dress glued onto the front of the dress here. And this is about the time when I really appreciate the model, the beauty of the randomness of the bats, as well as the flow of the dress in the front, revealing the wolf legs. Like, everything seems to work. And I do appreciate how this model looks different. It's not, she's got an axe, but she's not holding it over her head as she's stepping on this rubble. She's not actively jumping into battle. It looks like she's either casting a spell or just directing her animal friends. So that's what I like about this model. Different pose, interesting aesthetic, this Volga wolf clan. All right, we're slowly getting there. Moving on to the next piece, the trickiest part, the hand, the outstretched hand, and the bats there, as well as the axe hand. So I made the decision once I was closer to finishing that the axe was going to stick out more at an angle. In the box art, you see she's just kind of holding the axe down at her side, but I think it creates a stronger join if you hold the axe out. Right now I'm trying to copy the box art, and I'm like, the only point of contact is the shoulder, and the shoulder and the arm are very thin and small. There's not that much surface area for that glue to adhere to. So you're going to see in a little while that I decide to just stick it at an angle but have it touching her body. That way it makes the glue points much stronger, and the model will be less likely to break if I knock it off the table or something. Here I'm clipping bats. I'm gonna attach it to this outstretched arm after I clean up the wings. I've really been enjoying this Citadel plastic glue. It comes in a plastic bottle with a metal applicator tip, and it works really well. The glue hasn't dried in the tip yet. I've got the plastic cap, so I just stick that on when I'm not using it, so hopefully it won't get messed up as much as my other plastic glues. And all of what I'm doing gets in the camera. Igor! Yes, master. Why is the model out of focus? You should be moving the camera to focus on the model that I'm working on. Oh, I'm so sorry, master. I couldn't get over the uncanny resemblance between this Ivya Volga model and our good friend Lewis the Necromancer. What? Well, I'm just saying the scowl, the perpetual frown, and the pale skin
Her skin looks so pale it's almost grey, Master. Don't you think that very closely resembles our good friend Lewis? I have no idea what you're talking about, Igor, but I do want to mention that for a couple of minutes now, I've been trying to glue these bats onto this hand, onto this body, and it just is not getting the angle correctly. Like right now, it looks like the bats are drunk and lopsided. And Igor, why am I not in frame? And then it looks like I just cannot get it to stick. So I decided, oh, you know what? I'm just going to go to the base. I'm going to move on. I'm going to let this glue have some time to melt the plastic, and then it just falls apart. Everything is falling apart here. It's raining cats and dogs. And nothing is happening the way I want it to. So I take a deep breath and I look for I look again for the joins, the spaces you're supposed to glue. And then I think I realized that, the bats were not in the correct angle into the arm. So twist the arm a little bit, rotate it, and then the bats are going to be slotted in just a little bit more securely. And you're going to see in just a second, I actually add some more glue to get those bats even sturdier.
And the last thing that I did was add some AK neutral texture for rough terrain onto the base. And so that's going to dry and set overnight, then it will be ready to go. I believe I also based my Cursed City miniatures with this stuff. It's terrific. As soon as I spray primed the model and hit it with a wash of dryad bark, it's going to look like perfect woodland, spooky forest terrain, and it's just what I'm going for. So like I predicted, everything on this sprue has been used. This sprue goes in the trash now. And we're going to take a look at the model to see how she turned out. As you saw from the time lapse, I had a terrible time, not only with this axe arm, which I still need to shave that off a little bit, but with the arm here that's reaching forward or sending out the bats. There's just too many pieces. I think actually I can glue, why don't I do that? I will glue that part of the bat to his friend's head. Just a little bit of glue there so that you have a second, like just one more join to strengthen that that little clump. So it's not just connected to the arm and the arm's connected to the body. Now the bats are more connected, and in fact I can actually glue this bat head to that part of her cloak or her dress, and even more solid connections. Had a great time building this model up, guys. What do you think? I don't have any intention of using her if I ever run a Soulblight Gravelords army. I just don't think I don't know, maybe she's good in the game. I definitely want to paint her up because she looks like a fun model. She looks like a level 1 training wheels for before you attempt the Belladonna figure with all of the terrain as well as the other wolves. And her on her wolf. Like, I think this is a good way to practice doing some of those techniques. I'm really excited to do some of these techniques for the weathering, just the texture for this head piece, and the texture for the fur. I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, you can see how her axe is kind of more down. I think this is more interesting to have her axe to the side, and it's more dynamic. It creates like a strong line, I think, than having it down completely. And it also allowed me to slap some glue over there right below her butt, and so it could connect to the bottom of that axe. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a little time lapse of me assembling this Ivya Volga model, and I am excited to get started painting her. Oh, hello. Hello. I used to be very close with your mother, Belladonna Volga. Well, you don't say. Yeah, I don't suppose she's ever mentioned me, Lewis, the necromancer. No, she's never mentioned you. Ah, well, I gave that woman some of the best years of my life.
This unboxing has been brought to you by my patrons, Daniel Sprinkle, Play It Painted, Dicey Guy, and Pix. Thank you so much for supporting the studio. I hope you guys have managed to check out the latest live stream I did, where I break down how I'm going to be rewarding my patrons. I'm going to have them choose a mounted character from one of the Highland Miniatures models that I have, and that's going to represent their avatar as they be patrons of my studio. So the more they donate, the longer they're a patron, the more perks they're going to get, the more work is going to be done on their models until their models are painted up, and they even have their own retinue of footmen, men-at-arms, and maybe even a Pegasus Knight, or a creature that looks like a flying Pegasus in the Highland Miniatures interpretation. So check it out, it looks awesome, and head over to the Discord if you're not already. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.